So I'm going to start off very quickly just whizzing through clinical development. As Claire has said, our role is as expert clinical practitioners. And one of the key things for me as a consultant midwife practitioner is my role in complex care planning for women with complex emotional, psychological, obstetric and midwifery needs. And that makes up a large proportion of the role of the consultant midwife. And so a lot of that is where we hear for women what it is that is important for them, for their services, and it's about being responsive to that as practitioners. Educational development, again, very quickly, a thank you to Health Education Thames Valley, who are supporting me in undertaking my doctorate in clinical practice down at the University of Southampton. And my topic for my doctorate has come very much out of clinical practice. It's about this interlinking of these parts of the domain. So my doctoral study is looking at the impact for women with significant fear of birth on the care and support that they can receive from a doula, who is a non-medical birth supporter, in helping them prepare through their pregnancy, through their birth, and the impact of that for them. And so again, that very much came out of listening to women, hearing their stories and wanting to put that into practice. And of course, it's about developing others. So it's developing others locally. It's having those opportunities to teach and to train midwives and GPs and obstetricians and really be that expert midwifery voice within those colleagues that we work so closely with. Regionally, we want to develop, as consultant practitioners, the learning that we have from the projects that we've undertaken into that wider practice. So we're not reinventing the wheel every time. So for me, that's looked like sharing the findings of the work that I've been doing within the other trusts in the network for us to all learn together. And I've also been privileged to have the opportunity to, again, increase that sphere internationally. I've had the opportunity to do some consultancy with DFID, the Department for International Development in Uganda, as well as contributing to Bangladesh's first midwifery development program this year, spending a month over in Bangladesh, and really bringing those parts of what it is to be an expert midwife to a country that doesn't have midwifery. And again, leadership development. So it's how do we put this into practice? How do we, as midwifery leaders, take what we've learned from the innovation and hearing women's stories, how do we put that into a broader context to really lead the service forwards, both locally, regionally, and nationally and beyond? So I'm going to really quickly give an example. I'm going to explain what seeding is, and hopefully this is a really good example of how as TCPs we bring it all together. So I had the pleasure of meeting, I'm going to call her Harriet, in my consultant midwife clinic. She was having her second baby and she had an obstetric indication for caesarean section. So this was a woman who was going to have a caesarean section, but for her, her key area of concern was how to develop her baby's immune system, because her firstborn son had really life-altering allergic conditions, and this was something she had really wanted to avoid. And we have known for about 20 years that there is an association between babies born by caesarean section and that into adulthood, leading to a greater incidence of allergy, obesity, diabetes and other autoimmune conditions. And she'd read about this online. It's been in the media. And very much over the last 5 years, we've been focusing on the role of the microbiome, how the way we are born affects our gut flora, and the bacteria in our gut, and how that develops our immune system. And so she came to me with an idea. She said, I've read about artificial seeding. And so actually it was through listening to her that we responded to what it was that she wanted us to support her with as part of her caesarean section. And this is where those of you who are slightly more squeamish are going to have to get over where babies come from. We're going to talk about vaginas. So what she wanted was the process of artificial seeding, which is a very new concept that looks to how we can mitigate that risk of bypassing being born through the vaginal canal through to developing a baby's gut system through taking a swab, incubating in a woman's vagina before she has her caesarean section, and then quite simply, as the baby's born, put skin to skin with her, wiping the baby's face with that swab. It's really quite simple. But actually what we didn't have was a system that we could safely support her with. And so that's what we developed. We developed a standard operating protocol for women who requested this. Now, this is really early on in research and development. We're about 6 months into a pilot study in New York that has shown a positive correlation between the gut flora for babies who have had this. But actually going into an organisation where swabs in vaginas and retained swabs, this is just a big cultural no-no. And also just kind of exploring some of those concepts of babies and infection. Culturally, it was a challenging thing to do. But actually what we really wanted was for women's choices to be respected and for us to learn from women how we can integrate these things in developing our own practice. So I developed the standard operating protocol for supporting women to do this safely in our practice. And I had to engage the multidisciplinary team. And again, this was a massive exercise in leadership because actually, funnily enough, it wasn't the paediatricians who were all a bit squeamish about this because actually they understand the importance of those newborn guts. And they're doing things like fecal sampling and things like that in their special care baby units. Actually, it was the midwives and the obstetricians who still were just a bit squeamish about the whole thing. And so it's about educating for practice change and then actually sharing that learning. So sharing that learning through the academic clinical health sciences network and the clinical steering group, which I'm part of, and sharing that as this is a piece of work that we've done. We've learned things along the way. We've made mistakes along the way and we're moving forwards. And would you like to share our work? And actually, for me, it's been a big lesson in timeliness that actually, because this came from women, it came at a time that was a real shift in what women were wanting, what women were exploring for their births to optimise the best of a situation that they had if they were planning for elective caesarean section. And so actually we had opportunities to speak in the media about the importance of guts and normalising medical procedures and caesarean births. And it was just a timely process for us. And so actually this piece of work, we've been the first trust in the country to introduce this. We've had a number of other trusts who've wanted to share our guidelines and learn from us. And we've been invited to present this at the International Confederation of Midwives International Triennial Conference in Toronto next year, so I'll be presenting this piece of work there. So I think that just gives a little flavour of how it is that those different domains of the TCP role really come together in something that actually, for us and for the feedback we've had from women and families, have made a huge difference. And I'll just direct you to the little poster in the middle there that doesn't quite meet the format, but it's got some lovely pictures down the side, which we took during the caesarean section that we did this for this first woman. So, very quickly, how am I doing for time? 2 minutes to go, brilliant. So in that case, actually, I'm going to scrap talking about the fear of birth. Okay, I'm going to do this really quickly then. So actually, finally, the main quality improvement project that I did last year, this one was a bit of a kind of added extra. The main thing I've been looking at is introducing a fear of birth screening tool for all women at 16 weeks. Because again, listening to women and being in those clinics and talking with women who have real phobia of birth, one of the problems that we identified through audit was that we were picking these women up very late in pregnancy, 34, 35, 36 weeks. This was not a period of time that we could provide really good therapeutic input and support for women. And as a result, we were having women have planned caesarean sections for whom that wasn't necessarily for them even the best choice. So what we've done is we've introduced a fear of birth screening tool for all women, and we really hope that we're picking women up and they're coming to see us as consultant midwives in clinic much, much earlier. The aim is to get women engaged with our IACT service, our psychological therapy service, much earlier, before 24 weeks, so they have a good 16 weeks of therapy and preparation for birth. Because we know that suitably supporting women during pregnancy reduces women's anxiety, and we know that has lifelong benefits for babies as they grow up into adults as well.